What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Progenitor. This is the podcast where we go over a director's entire filmography, talking about themes, scenes, pacing, and give a brief review, all within 30 minutes or less. So let's get started. Now, this next film, Ridley Scott returns to the sci-fi genre that I don't know, did he create it? No, there's a bunch of sci-fi horror slasher films, right? So, but he mastered it. He did a really great one. And so he returns back to that genre. And he returns back to ask some very interesting questions. Some of them being, what does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to have a creator? Who is our creator? Why did our creator just leave us here to do whatever we wanted? And there are so many questions in this film that they do not answer, but hey, it's worth the journey. This next film, we are going back into the world that introduced us to the Xenomorphs. But this is more of an origin story. Welcome to the world of Prometheus. Now let's talk a little bit about the filming. You would expect there'd be a lot of green screen shots, but according to the main movie actress, or the main actress, Numi, let's call her Numi, green screen was used minimally and only in 6 times during filming. According to her, that is. Primary shooting occurred at the Shepperton Studios and Pinewood Studios in England, using 8 sound stages, including the 007 stage, and they did a lot of the exterior shots of the alien world in Iceland. Also, a shot was taken at Dettifoss Waterfall, near that area, and I gotta say, that waterfall looks incredible. It reminds me of, the one in Argentina and Brazil, and then, there's like 3 waterfalls that like come together, except this one big waterfall. It's beautiful. Anyways, and they did additional shooting in Alicante, Spain, that included large water tanks and a nearby beach. And they shot in Jordan. Strange, not as much Morocco in this movie, but hey, let me go into a brief plot description. Like I said, this is sort of an origin story, but let's get a little deeper. All right, so you have Dr. Elizabeth Shaw and Dr. Charlie Holloway leading an expedition to find the creators of humanity. And these 2 scientists have found these historical markings, and they've mapped it into the stars, and they found a planet, which is where the creation of humanity, or the originators of humanity, came from. So they're like, let's go find them. They're the lead of this expedition that also has the following people: an android named David, Meredith Vickers, Yannick, who's the Prometheus's captain, and there's some scientists like Fifield and Milburn, and you just have this whole crew. They're gonna go find this planet, and guess what? When they arrive on the planet, shit goes down. They discover an alien spaceship, which has an alien there, not an alien, but a humanoid. A huge humanoid that's like over 10 feet tall. And they are able to derive or get his DNA, and it's like 100% match. So, hey, this guy must have helped create us. But while they're there, they discover like these little pods. They're like, hey, what's this? And slowly you find out it's an alien. It's not a xenomorph yet, because the xenomorphs haven't exactly gone into the humans to come out, but it's the originator of the xenomorph. And so you kind of start seeing the progression of this, and it's all stuck within this horror slash sci-fi slash monster movie, shot so well. And this movie, I believe I saw this in 3D. And some of the shots are just amazing. Like, there's this contraption that they have. It's like an orb that they send throughout the alien spaceship, and basically it maps the interior of the spaceship, and it's going around. But if you're looking at this in 3D, it looks amazing. It looks really dope, and only the masters really know how to shoot in 3D. So we're talking about Martin Scorsese with Hugo, and yeah, Prometheus with Ridley Scott, and come on, James Cameron with Avatar. You watch Avatar now, that thing is a freaking cartoon if you don't have 3D. But these directors know about depth of perception. They just understand the way a frame works and what to put in the frame and how to shoot it to make it feel real. It's just incredible. And then you have the soundscape. I'm going to go into a brief review. Incredible movie. One of my favorites of his. Not let me double check. Is it in my It's definitely not in my top 10, but it's close to top 15, I would believe. Yeah, right now I have it placed around 12 and American Gangsters 11. So it's close to the top 10. But yeah, so there you go. Brief review. Close to the top 20. Number 12 right now. Amazing visuals, amazing music, great performances. I do want to say something about one of the lead actors who plays Charlie Holloway, and his name is Logan Marshall Green. Logan Marshall Green is like a thin American version of Tom Hardy. He does give a pretty good performance, but I do think it does lack in a little depth. Like, you don't really get to understand him as much as you would a Tom Hardy. You don't get that you don't really get existential angst from him when you should. You know what I mean? Because you have Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, played by Numi, and her character is a character of faith. She grew up with a faith. Whereas Charlie Holloway is a character of logic. So when he discovers that, oh, hey, we found the originators, there should be a lot of existential angst. Like, why did you leave? What? He just looks kind of pouty. So, yeah. But overall, really great performances. One of the best performances, of course, is by Michael Fassbender, who plays David. And we'll get into that later. But all right, let's get into the cast and the crew. So you got the crew, film directed Ridley Scott, of course, produced by Ridley Scott, David Goyer, who did all the Alien movies in the past. You have Walter Hill, all Alien movies, as well as he's also a director. He did the more recent Bullet to the Head with Sylvester Stallone. He did actually a Western recently, and Streets of Fire. I think he did The Warriors. So he's done a lot of great films. Screenplay by John Spates, who wrote or co-wrote Doctor Strange. He co-wrote Dune. You have Damon Lindelof. He co-wrote Star Trek maybe he just wrote Star Trek Into Darkness, I forgot, but not one of the best. And he created the TV show Lost. A lot of people loved it. I've never seen it. I'm not as good with TV. Music is by Mark Strettenfeld again, with 2 supplemental tracks by my favorite, Harry Gregson Williams. You also have cinematography by a new guy named of Darius Wolski. Now, this guy did Sweeney Todd, Pirates of the Caribbean, the trilogy. So he worked with Gore Verbinski. He's worked with Tim Burton. Production design by Arthur Max and edited by Pietro Scalia. All-star cast includes Noomi Rapace. Let's just call her Noomi. She did the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the Swedish version. I believe it's Swedish, right? Michael Fassbender, everyone knows him in Glorious Bastard, 300. Yeah, he was actually in 300, guys. He had long hair. Charlize Theron, she was in The Yards, Monster. Idris Elba, 3,000 Years of Longing, Pacific Rim, the Thor trilogy, Heimdall, right? Guy Pearce, Memento, LA Confidential, Logan Marshall Green, he was in Upgrade. Sean Harris, he's the bad guy in Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, and Fallout. He was King Arthur in The Green Knight, which is a beautiful film. And finally, Rafe Spall. This is his second film. He was in A Good Year with with Russell Crowe, directed by Ridley Scott. So there we go. Collabs. Let's get into collabs real quick. You got Arthur Mack's 7th film, Pietro Scalia 8th film, Mark Strattonfield 5th film, Rafe Spall 2nd film, and Harry Gregson Williams, with his incidental music, 2nd film. Now I used to do Wife's Corner, but we watched these together a while back. But it's really weird. She normally doesn't like horror movies, but she actually kind of enjoys these alien movies. And I'm wondering if it's because, the main star or the main hero are these very, very strong independent female characters. So yeah, she enjoyed it. I remember she enjoyed it. It wasn't as scary as she thought. And then at the end, there's that like octopod. It's like a huge face hugger, and that came out of. Oh, we'll get into it. Sorry, but yeah. Anyways, let's get into some themes. Empowered female characters. Yes, Numi is the star. She plays Elizabeth Shaw. She's very strong, and a lot of people die around her, and she just gets stronger and stronger. It's like she's feeding off of dead people and absorbing their talents and just becoming like Superwoman or something. But she's very good. She's very strong. And is this a battle of the sexes? I don't know. This one's a little different. This is more of a battle of faith and logic, right? So you have her with faith, you have her boyfriend, husband with logic, right? And her boyfriend, husband gets massacred by an alien, implanted in him by David through a drink. So basically, she survives this whole film, and at the end, David asks her, "How can you still have faith?" And then she's just like, "I have faith that they created us for a reason. So let's go find them and find the reason and find out why they wanted to kill us or whatnot." Because in the movie, you find out that this alien spacecraft that has the originators of human beings with the same identical DNA strands, they were going back to Earth with a bunch of biological weapons in their spaceship to wipe out all of humanity. So basically, Numi's character, Elizabeth Shaw, is like, I want to know why. Like, what the F is going on here? And it's really interesting because there's a point where Ridley Scott gave an interview where it's like, maybe we killed one of their emissaries. Could it be Jesus? Anyways, let's go. Nature space is a hostile and uncontrollable environment. Yes, ding ding ding. Especially when you go to an alien planet that you don't know anything about, and then you find this alien spaceship with a bunch of alien biological warfare items inside. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's gonna be hostile. Okay, and you don't even know if you can breathe the air, right? You don't know if you can breathe the air, so don't take off your helmet. If you take off your helmet, you might die, right? So yeah, ding ding ding, that's definite. The only way to survive is to adapt. Ding ding ding. That's all That's all Elizabeth Shaw does in this movie. And she's actually not that stupid. In typical horror sci-fi films, you have at least one character that's super stupid and makes really bad decisions. Throughout this film, she's not making stupid decisions. She's actually doing smart things. She's trying to work through it as a scientist at the same time. And there's this scene where, so what happens is David is jealous of humans because humans think that they can just tell robots what to do. and they made David, or the Wayland Company made David, who's an android, into like the closest to a human that they can make. So he can make freaking decisions. He can feel. At the beginning of the movie, he's watching Lawrence of Arabia. And throughout this movie, you start to feel that he's getting jealous of humans. So now he wants to test this alien residue he finds while they're looking at the alien spacecraft. So he saves it on his finger because it's not going to do anything to him. He's a robot, and he dips it into Charlie Holloway's drink. Charlie Holloway's drunk. He drinks it. Then he goes to Elizabeth Shaw's room. They have sex. Next day, he has fever. Turns out he's infested with an alien. No one knows. And guess what? He put a seed of an alien into Elizabeth Shaw. So she has to do an emergency, like they call it an appendectomy, right? Like get your appendix out. But it's kind of like an abortion because there is an alien in her body, folks. So she goes into like this chamber that does surgeries, and it rips out like this. It's basically the progenitor of the facehugger. It's like this freaking pod that turns into an octopus, and it's trying to like eat her. She gets out of it, runs away, and then it shows up later. But yeah, the survive is to adapt. So she's got to be smart. She's got to make right decisions. Oh, I was talking about her decision making abilities and her adaptation. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. Age does not mean a thing. Most of these people look like they're the same age. Ding ding ding. Except for David, who's like super is a robot. So he probably is like what, 3, 4 years old, but he's a robot. So he's got all this information already installed in his brain, all this knowledge. So yeah, he's killing it. He's killing it, guys. David. Anyways, do not trust rich people. Throughout this movie, you discover that this expedition, space expedition, is funded by the Whaling Corporation. And so there's this Whaling Corporation run by Peter Whalen, played by Guy Pearce. Quote unquote, he's in the Prometheus throughout the movie. He's just hidden in a separate like area. And this guy's fucking old, guys. He's like sagging, can't walk. And he's been looking for the secret of life all his life. And he just throws money everywhere. Dude, he funded an expedition, right? But there's always something to him. He's creating all these things. Why? Probably because he wants to play God and he's got money. So do not trust rich people. Money is coveted. I got money. I can do whatever I want. And David finds on the alien spacecraft the cockpit. And they find one of the alien humanoids is still alive. So he's like, all right, Waylon, let's go find him, right? Waylon just has the thought that, hey, I got money, I got power, I got here, I can just survive. Let me talk to this alien being. Well, guess what? The alien being kills Waylon, tears apart David, and just goes on a rampage and is like, you know what? I'm alive now. I'm going to go to Earth and finish my job, right? So, yeah, don't trust rich people. Money is coveted. Stupid. Stupid. Next up, violence don't solve a thing, brains do. I just went over this whole scene with Elizabeth Shaw getting a abortion from the alien, and throughout the film she's making really smart choices. Happy wife, happy life. And I don't really think there's many wives in this movie. At least I don't remember them talking about it. Charlie and Elizabeth are not yet married, I don't think. But hey, they're happy. They have sex, and then hey, they give birth to an alien. So probably not the best example of this. Next up, Battle of the Sexes. I don't know about this. Oh, you know what? You do have Vickers, who's played by Charlize Theron, and she does a battle with Elizabeth Shaw. And her character, she's very jealous of all the men in the crew because she wants to be the most powerful crew member. Unfortunately, she's second to the scientists because they're the heads of the expedition pretty much. And then you have the captain of the ship. So I don't think she can override the captain of the ship. but she could still make decisions. And so there's a battle of the wills between her and Elizabeth Shaw. So that's very interesting because it's the battle of the same sex. Anyways, do not trust robots, androids. Ding, ding, ding. Finally, we are back to this theme, artificial intelligence. And it turns out they made this robot so close to humans that he can have emotions, he can feel resentment, jealousy, anger. And honestly, he's just trying to be human, you know, because he's tired of being a robot. He wants to know what it's like to be a human. So he's jealous of us. And because he's jealous of us, it's like, I think it's like, what do you do when you meet your creator, right? And then you think you're better than your creator. And then so he just wreaks a lot of havoc, right? The afterlife, death, God. Yes, it is a theme in this movie, especially death, especially with Peter Whalen trying to extend his life pretty much, which leads us back to Blade Runner, right? Because you have Roy Batty going back to Earth trying to extend his life. But now you have Peter Wayland, an old, rich man who did everything he could to create the perfect human android, and he just wants more life, right? So he's trying to find his creator, ask for more life. Who wouldn't do that? Well, guess what? He gets ruined. All right, let's move on to shots, folks. There are so many good shots. For example, the first 15 minutes or the first 10 minutes, it's actually an origin story of humanity. You have the humanoid white, humanoid giant. He drinks this syrup or this black syrup. It goes throughout his body, destroys him. He melts into this waterfall. The waterfall is brilliant and beautiful. And, you know, he gets absorbed into the water and DNA starts happening, blah, blah, blah. Creation of humanity. And then you have these wonderful shots of like the Prometheus landing on the not the main Prometheus. They take like an excavator little ship and they land on the planet, and there's so many beautiful shots on the way down. Then I mentioned earlier there's that orb that goes throughout the whole spacecraft and it maps it. Beautiful shot, especially in 3D. If you're watching, I watched it in IMAX 3D, I remember. And then what are some other shots? Like whenever you see Ridley Scott just shooting the natural world of this alien world, it's so beautiful. So those are my favorite shots. As for scenes, definitely anything with David, because Michael Fassbender kills it in this movie. Just like like little nuanced movements and smirks, and just like anytime he talks with Charlie Holloway and he dips his finger to poison him, that's a really great scene. You see the emotion in his face. I love the beginning where he's like riding around alone in the spacecraft, and before he wakes up the whole crew and he's watching Lawrence of Arabia, he's combing his hair back. That's a wonderful scene. As for the alien scenes, they are intense. It is very violent. This movie is pretty long too. It's about 2 hours 30 minutes. But it, I I keep saying this, but I feel like all Ridley Scott movies like move so quickly and are so efficient with their time. I really like Idris Elba in this role. He's just like a cowboy when it comes to him piloting his ship. I do love the scene where he has this little small Christmas tree and he's playing. What is that? I think he plays a harmonica and he plays a small accordion. He's playing an accordion and he's flirting with Meredith Vickers, and I think they have sex. They don't show it, but they're flirting with each other. And then you have a scene with Fifield, played by Sean Harris, and Milburn, played by Rafe Spall. This is when they're first attacked by the alien. They're like one of the first casualties of this film. That's a really exciting scene. It's it's just a really well paced, well edited, beautifully shot film. and I definitely recommend it. But that is it for Prometheus. Next up, we are. This is probably the closest. This next film is probably the closest Ridley Scott will ever get to a modern day Western, I feel. And it's not technically a Western. It has remnants of No Country for Old Men in a sense. And guess what? It's written by the same guy who wrote the original book, No Country for Old Men. This next film is The Counselor. Now, let's see where The Counselor is playing. Oh, you are out of luck. It is not streaming for free, unfortunately. So, if you're going to check it out, you might have to buy it. If you buy it, I definitely recommend any copy that has the director's cut of the film. It adds, I think, 20 or 30 minutes of footage, but it's a really interesting film. It's like Ridley Scott doing a Tony Scott and a Michael Bay without the action. Just the fast cutting, the gaudy colors, the sexy women. It does a lot of that. And it is a very interesting story about the drug trade, basically. Great cast. I have a lot of good things to say about this movie, and it was not given its due, but I can't wait to go over it, guys. So, check it out. The Counselor. Get a copy. I'm pretty sure it's $14.99. He even does a really, really great commentary track on this movie. He does a really great commentary track on Prometheus. And actually, if you ever listen to a Ridley Scott commentary track, they're all really great. He goes into a lot of details into his thinking, why he chose the movie, why he did certain shots. It's great to listen to a master talking about his craft. But anyways, so yeah, The Counselor's up next. Get your copy, and we'll talk to you all next time. All right, bye.